I got a dog,
Oh,
but
really? What kind of dog?
Stella, come show yourself.
Not Stella. Stella.
Stella, come show yourself. Come here. Come here. Come here.
Let's see
Come here.
Stella.
Ooh.
Aw. Hi,
There.
Oh, Stella's cute. Hey, Stella. Aw. Stella's adorable. How old is Stella?
Almost 10, 9 years. 9 years.
Aw. You had a,
Yep.
she was a puppy?
We got her when she was 2.
Okay.
Oops, since she was 2. And she's actually the mascot of the distribution label
Oh,
that
really?
I came up with. Yeah. I call it Stella Blue Records.
Oh,
It has a little picture of her. Yeah.
that's what's our Stella famous and she don't even know it.
She's the CEO, but she just does big pictures. She doesn't do the little stuff.
She a big deal. Okay, I can get with
She
that stuff.
she got
I,
us for that.
I can get with that, Stella. So this is gonna be just, us having fun, talking shit, and keep a conversation real. So don't think that you gotta be over the top or anything. We good. So
Okay.
start off. I've heard your story parts of how you got into the blues and you was in LA. Well, you were in LA, right?
Yeah, when I first got to the States, I was in LA, yes.
Okay, so tell me your blues story and how you got into the music and then what brought you to Chicago. So that's what I want to start with.
Yeah. Um, I came to the States 11 years ago.
Okay.
I always say it's 10, but then I did the math and it's actually 11 years ago, 2014.
Okay.
And I'm originally from Germany, smaller town, Koblenz, Germany. It's like 100,000 people.
Okay.
Um, like an hour and a half from Frankfurt. A lot of people come through Frankfurt because we got the big airport.
Okay.
But yeah, not much blues. I mean, I was kind of fortunate that there was one club that won best live music club a couple of times all over Germany, and it's a small club. It's about the size of, I would say, like Rosas.
Okay.
And that particular club would have some American blues artists
Okay.
stopping by once a year. And you really would have to mark it in your calendar, when Luther Allison would come there, her son Bernard Allison. So some Chicago blues artists, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to catch some of that in my
Okay.
hometown. And that's kind of where the interest came from. I heard it on records, and my dad had like a pretty good record collection, like that there was some blues in there, but it wasn't really until I saw it done live,
Okay.
that I was really interested.
Okay.
And so then I came to LA to go to school and music school in LA,
Hmm.
Musicians Institute. I had a student visa for a little bit. And in LA, my first gig, besides like a little bit of music teaching, after school teaching, was to play gospel.
Okay.
I started, which I had no experience, because it doesn't really exist in
Right.
Germany. Like our church music is more like organ music, classically inspired. So there's no bands playing in the Catholic or like Protestant churches in Germany. So for me, it was always like very boring, the music
Okay.
side of it. And one of the drummers I worked with, he's like, "Yeah, man, you should come play in church." And I'm like, "Okay," and I just walked into it and I was like, "Wow, this is cool." And it wasn't completely unfamiliar. There was a lot of stuff that I could like link, because I knew Ray Charles. I knew like,
Right.
like stuff that's very close to like hymns and traditional, like, I was playing at a Baptist church at the time, and a lot of it sounded familiar. from
Okay.
listening to Ray Charles, listening to Aretha Franklin, listening to James Brown, but for me, that opened up a whole new world where I'm like,
Right.
wow, this is cool. And I got to play with some of like the best cats around, great drummers, great bass players. So that was really good for me. And then I moved to San Diego. I did a lot of like top 40 and kind of R&B dance band stuff,
Okay.
cover band. That's where I met my wife, by the way. My wife,
Okay.
Sade, I met in San Diego. And when COVID came down, that kind of changed things because I did so much top 40 and cover, and all of a sudden the calendar was just blank, no gigs.
Wow.
And the year before COVID, I think I did 220 gigs.
Oh
Like
my
I was
God.
gigging like crazy, like triple duty a lot of days, like a lot of solo duo with different singers. I was just doing it all and
Okay.
doing too much. Like I have to say, looking back, I was doing too much and I was almost getting a little bit losing the joy,
Okay.
in the music because it was always the same songs, always the crowd favorites,
Right.
just hustling. And I think it's good to get your skills up, but it was a little bit like I felt like I lost a little bit of my passion.
Okay.
And during COVID, I felt like at home, I just rediscovered it. I listened
Gotcha.
to Elmore James, to Robert Johnson, I learned a lot of those songs just by myself, Delta blues, and I started writing blues songs. And before I was so busy playing, I didn't write really lyrics on music.
Oh,
And
wow.
before you know it, I had like all these songs, and I'm like, I gotta do something with this. And then when things opened back up, I was like, man, I don't want to go back to playing Uptown Funk every night.
Right.
I want to play this music, and it was a little hard for me to find the right gigs because a lot of them are like, yeah, we don't really want original music. There were just a few venues who really wanted to work with me like that in California who were open to me playing my own music. And with blues, they were a little bit too like, that's gonna be some slow stuff. And people have this idea it's gonna be all depressive and slow and down on yourself,
Right.
and complaining. That's what they think of blues.
Right.
A lot of people just they have this wrong idea that it can't be upbeat or fun. And I'm like, wow, maybe I have to go somewhere else, because maybe this is just not the right place to find, gigs for that. And then I visited Chicago, and it was like a lot of places were still closed. Buddies was still closed. No, Buddies was not closed, but Rosa's was the place I came to on a Tuesday, and I met Pete Galanis and Dave Ferrero, and I was like, wow, I have
Wow.
to find a way to come here,
Okay.
because I felt like it was really inspiring. I really fell in love with the city. I was only here for a couple of days, but I was like, Chicago is awesome. So I started the process of trying to convince my wife to leave California. She's a California native, and she was not looking forward to the prospect of the weather.
Right. It's different. Very different.
Ooh, we came here in February with snow and all 3 years
Ooh.
ago, and I had to do the dishes for a minute, to keep the peace. She really likes Chicago now too. It grew on her,
Okay.
but at first it was a transition, but now like it's a great city. Out the art and music situation is great, but outside of that, I feel like Chicago is a great city.
Okay. That's cool. That's really cool. I know it was probably a challenge, especially with her being from San Diego, because I just went out to San Diego probably about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Loved it, but I had family out there because I have a lot of military family, and they were in San Diego, but I never had gotten out there to see them. And when I went out there, I was like, I see why they love it. I see why it's amazing.
Yeah,
The mountains, the water, just and the it was just gorgeous. So I know it's probably a challenge.
yeah, and it's a hard place to leave.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, It's slow paced,
Mm-hmm.
and for as a musician, there's a unique challenge because the corporate situation with
Yeah.
weddings and corporate gigs is so tempting that a lot of people don't want to play club gigs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you want the best rhythm sections to play with you, you're competing with high paying corporate gigs.
Right.
And just to give you an example of, I say, hey, I have great songs and I can give you $100 or 150 to play a bar. A lot of people say, hey man, I'm making 500 that night playing a wedding. So
Right.
sorry.
Yeah.
And it's hard because it's beautiful. The weather is good all year round. A lot of people come there to
Mm-hmm.
get married, to have their corporate function, and there's nothing wrong with that. I respect everybody, anybody who makes a living off of playing music. That in
Correct.
itself is hard enough.
Because it's
And
challenging.
I'm not
Yes.
gonna say, hey, you do cover or top 40, so I look down on that. Like
Right.
anybody who can pay their bills with this, like my hat off to you,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
No,
But if
you're
you want to
very
do
right.
something else, that's hard.
Yeah. Just, I think just being the life of an artist is challenging, period. Especially if you want to be a paid artist, that's what you're worth. So, but I have a good friend of mine that I met when I was living in Europe who she mostly does the weddings and stuff, and how a lot of folks were coming over to do their weddings over in Italy and stuff like that. So she'll perform for those. And it was very lucrative. But if you want, like you said, if you want to get other gigs and do like more clubs and bars and that type of thing, the folks be like, no, how much is paying? Is it I could do
Hmm.
better at a wedding? So you're very spot on with that. So let me ask you this. So with your experience and going to music school and learning about the different crafts and the different genres and all of that, what was it about blues that you was like, this is it?
Um, with the music school thing, it's always good to learn, but for me, to be completely honest, it was a little bit of ticket to get a visa because
Okay.
it's a lot of people forget this. It's tough to be able to come to the States,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um, it's really hard. They're not giving this away, like especially not today, but they're not, inviting
Right.
people to come and work and live here just with no strings attached. And for me, that was like, hey, at least I'll be able to be there and to check it out, and
Mhm.
maybe after I'm done studying, I can find a way. I actually had to get an artist visa, which was
Correct.
not easy to get. There's a
Mhm.
couple of friends like Ivan and a couple of international people in Chicago who had to go through the same process, and it's very difficult. You
Correct.
have to prove, that you um what is it called? Alien with extraordinary abilities, or what? So basically, you have to prove that you're worth keeping,
Right.
as an artist, and it's not easy. But for me, it was like uh, I learned some things in school, but I have to say I learned more working and I learned more playing church. It was a good experience, but I've never been a gearhead and I've never been a guitar player who talks about the pedals and just guitar stuff. I'm a musician.
Right.
I like good music, I like good lyrics, I like good songwriting. I'm not overly consumed by just guitar. And I felt like a music school, there were a lot of people around me who were just looking at this. What licks are you playing? What like solos are you playing? And
Right.
it was all about that. And I've never been that type of musician who's like laser focused on my instrument.
Okay.
Because I feel like you kind of shut out the audience because they oftentimes they can't follow you there.
Yeah.
For them it's an experience and an energy. It's not so much about like what type of licks or like chords you're playing. Like if they're
Right.
not feeling it, then you're not reaching them. And
Yeah.
um, looking back, it was interesting, but it's not a big part of who I am.
Okay. No, I think you make a very excellent point. I think that and I even look at it nowadays with the newer technologies like the beat machines and stuff, and not to knock the artists that use that stuff, but it comes down, and this is one of the reasons why I love, 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 love the blues, it comes down to the story. It comes down to you
Hmm.
connecting with the artist or the audience. I'll say it like that, and being able to convey the story to them and for them to feel what you're saying. And there are a lot of artists that get caught up in the technique and get caught up in the licks or whatever, as you guys say with the instruments, and they lose the audience. They lose that connection that of telling the story and being able to convey the story and engage the emotions and stuff. So that's one of the things that I do love about blues. And you were very correct. Like, yeah, if you hear somebody do a solo, you be like, okay, they got some chops. All right. But it comes down to you being able to groove with the emotion of the audience because I think that feeds the artist as well.
Yeah. And it's just so raw, I feel like it's so, it's almost like you can't really explain it.
Mm,
Yeah, like
mhm.
you can't really like analyze it or put words under it. If you listen to somebody and they're putting their feelings out there, even if it's not their own lyrics, if they're just there's a certain way they sing a song that and it just hits you, because you can just like feel the emotion of it. And that exists in other styles of music, but I feel like in blues it's such a crucial part to the music being what it is.
Mhm.
It's like if that's not there, then it's just like three chords and kind of, it's like the feeling makes it or breaks it. If I connect with
Yes.
somebody who's singing or playing, I'm like, man, I could sit here forever listening to this. And
Right.
somebody else could play the same song, and I'm like,
Yes.
I'm absolutely not interested.
Yes.
It's so hard to make out that difference. Why? And it's really not anything about technique. It's really like how somebody delivers that emotion
Hmm.
makes all the difference for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
as an audience, because I go out a lot and listen to people,
Hmm.
and I love that about the scene in Chicago. That there's a lot of people who do that. I go out, see Mike Wheeler's show, see Rico McFarlane's show, see Omar Coleman's show, and I really feel like I take that in, like
Hmm.
how they do certain songs. And I'm not trying to copy it because I don't think I could. Because we
Right.
all have our own like style, but I'm like, that's one of the biggest parts about it, like how people deliver a song. And yeah, it's
No,
just gotta
you
love
no,
it.
you gotta love it. And also in talking to like people like Laretha and some of the other um folks that I've connected with and doing the interviews with, it comes down to you knowing yourself as an artist and knowing, like you said, you're not trying to mimic or imitate Rico or Omar or anything like that. You're trying to tell your story and you're trying to connect with the audience and telling your story. So I think that's one of the things that does make you uniquely who you are as an artist. Because like you've been out there doing your thing, and now you're on your second album, or is this your?
Yeah, we got the studio album When I'm
Okay.
Gone, and then we did the live at
Okay.
Rosa's Lounge.
Awesome.
Uh, yeah,
So do you prefer studio or the live albums? Which one do you prefer doing?
there's pros and cons. In the studio, you can kind of control things a bit more. Live
Mhm.
is nice because you have that energy, and
Right.
you have to live with whatever, you know, you recorded.
Yeah.
You can't drive yourself crazy over like having a rattle and a snare or some background noise. You just sometimes gotta live with it. But I feel like I really appreciated live recordings growing up. Like, I remember for me, live was always more interesting. And I think in
Mhm.
the 60s, there was a period where people really tried to make the stuff that they were able to do live happen in the studio.
Yeah.
And then it kind of flipped, where the
Mhm.
studio productions got so good that now people, oh, can you do it live? But when I think about Hendrix, for example, like the life at Woodstock, life at Monterey, these
Hmm.
live recordings are so good. It's almost like it's hard to deliver a studio album that's like just as interesting, you know.
Yeah.
And I like live. I think it's honest. And if somebody, you know, the Kingfish live album, recent
Yeah.
live albums, I'm like, man, if somebody can do it live, it's impressive,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
people don't actually realize that, and I love to hear what you have to say about this. But people don't honestly realize how challenging live is because, like you said, anything could be thrown off. Like the wind can blow across the background and knock a cymbal over, and you be looking like, I got to keep the beat going. I got to keep going. But I love live because you connect with the audience. You're feeding off the energy of the audience, and then each day is going to be different from the next. It's about the mood that you're in, the spirit that you're feeling. So, what are your thoughts about? You said you love live. What is it more? Talk to me a little bit more about the live experience. Why do you groove more with the live experience?
Well, you have that element of, you know, how you interact with the rest of the band, you
Mhm.
know, in the moment. If you don't like overthink it too much, and then how you interact with the audience too.
Correct.
And I feel like, especially in Chicago, because there are people that are more studio cats, that
Yeah.
are more like practicing and recording and laying down tracks. But I feel like in Chicago, most people I rub shoulders with here, like a lot of who you probably talk to, you know, on this podcast. Man, that's what we do. That's our job. Like we
Yeah.
can do this. Like that, it's not a stretch, you know. So you're fighting the technology
Yeah.
and the how you capture it. But for us to like get up there and play an hour and not have any mistakes and like sound good, that's kind of what we do. Like
Yeah.
that's not really the biggest challenge about it. I feel like that's our comfort zone is
Mhm.
playing in a club live in front of people. Personally, in a studio, I'm much more nervous.
Right.
I feel like a deer in headlights. I feel like everybody's looking at me if I have to do
Yes.
something over. On
Yeah.
stage, I mean, you just vibe off of each other and you feel good, you know. You have a in studio, it feels awkward.
Hmm.
Complete silence, and then you play, and then you have a wrong note or something, you have to do it again, and you feel like everybody's like, damn, how long is he gonna take? It's much more awkward, I
Yeah.
feel.
No, you're
And
right.
you have no reaction too. Nobody's really telling you. I mean, you can try to hype each other up, but nobody's telling you if you're doing a good job. If you're playing in front of audience and they're into it, you know that you're doing good. It's a question if the recording turned out nice, you know,
Yeah.
but in the moment, you know that it's 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 achieving what you want, the reaction that you want to get.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Studio is
Look,
weird. A studio is
yeah.
just weird.
It's very weird. I think the first time I went into the studio, I was like, it's cool. I could say I've been had a studio experience, but I didn't like it. I didn't know. Like it.
Yeah. You first come in, I feel like you take your selfies, you get excited, and then
Hmm.
4, 5, 6 hours after, you're like, my God, this is
Yeah.
such a drag.
Seriously, serious. So you have been on stages with some of the legends and some of the amazing folks that are connected to the blues scene, the blues world in Chicago, and then throughout. Tell me about one of your most funniest or one of your most like amazing stories from being on the blues scene.
It's hard to pick one. I mean, generally speaking, I feel like I learned so much from going to see other people. And it's not just music. Yes, it's music, but after a while, and people have similar shows, you know, they play similar songs, but
Mhm.
I paid attention more to other things. I paid
Right.
attention to how do they interact with the crowd? How do they like carry themselves, you
Right.
know? And because I think a lot we musicians are a little bit prone to get a big head, you know, sometimes,
Mhm.
or but you know, and I like to take Mike Wheeler as an example because I think
Mhm.
he's one of the nicest guys you could ever meet.
Okay.
and he always in the audience, I noticed that, when I started to build a following for myself and get regulars to come out to see me,
Okay.
nobody had ever to say anything negative to say about Larry and Mike. They're like, hey, they always take time to talk to us, make us feel a part of it, valued and appreciated. And
Right.
that stuff sometimes is so much more important than learning licks from
Yes.
somebody or
Yeah.
whatever. How do they carry themselves on and off the stage? Because that's part of the culture and the tradition.
Hmm.
How do you react to somebody wanting to sit in with you or whatever? Are you gonna be like, elbows, or are you gonna be, of course, I give somebody else a chance, to shine? And I feel
Right.
like I learned a lot by watching other people in Chicago about how it's done here. And I can tell you one thing, it's not done like that in California. If you
Okay.
walk up on people and say, "Hey, I want to, get on stage and show you what I can do," I did not meet a lot of people who are open to
Oh
the idea of
wow.
that.
Okay.
The gig market is very competitive, and I don't know. I maybe sat in with people 2 or 3 times in the six
Okay.
years that I lived there. In
Yeah.
Chicago, sometimes I sit in with people 3 times in a week.
Right.
The culture is different, and I think that especially in the blues scene, the culture is more, you know, hey, if you can do something, I want you on stage. Do it.
Right.
And for me, that was really cool to see. If you can play, people are willing to give you a chance. And I don't want to say it's easy to get in these clubs and get gigs, but if you have the right work ethic, people will notice that.
Yeah.
And for me, I can't point to one moment. For me, it's like the sum of that, of the advice I've been given, like the encouragement that I've gotten from people, and it just prepares you for those situations where you might feel a little starstruck, or you might feel a little bit like, oh wow, that you keep your cool and you can be yourself and you can
Hmm.
be confident. And the result is just that people are just gonna respect you for doing it your way.
Right.
Um, because don't get me wrong, this is not my culture. I didn't grow up in the blues. My dad wasn't a blues musician,
Right.
like I understand that when you like, um, not just as a foreigner, but I mean, you know, blues is black culture. Like
Right.
there's no way around, like seeing where the music comes from. And if you like try to find your way into someone else's culture, like you need to be respectful of it. And
Right.
you also need to be true to yourself and not be a copycat or imitator.
Right.
And I feel like I've been given a chance to just be myself and still be like a part of the whole thing. And that for me, that's the most gratifying experience. That I don't have to change anything about how I sing, play, talk, walk around in order to be accepted as a part of it. And
Right.
that's special.
Okay. That's a amazing taking perspective, and also to the point that you stated, just being a part of it. Um, unlike other genres, but then also other spaces. Like you said, it's different in California. You just not about to sit in with any and everybody just to show your chops and show what you have. But it's also about that camaraderie and the family aspect I felt for the most part in the blues. You have your family members that you don't get along with, but it's a lot of love and connection tied to the blues. So in moving things forward, and this is going to be my last question because we gonna do this again, but how do you see the blues introducing new folks, new younger generations to what it is that it does and what it's about? How do you see the blues being leading the charge for the most part and bringing in new audiences?
Um, there's no easy answer to that, I think. I feel like people like choice.
Mm-hmm.
People like to be able to choose if they want something that's very rooted in tradition, or if they want something that's more, how you say, like urban or contemporary or mixed with other genres. I feel like there's room for everything
Mhm.
because some people are really purists, and I don't like that because I played a lot of traditional, and I feel like I learned traditional, and then I came to Chicago and I learned saw that a lot of people mix blues with gospel, R&B, other styles, and I
Right.
I love that. It gives me a lot of freedom to incorporate everything I learned. But to be close-minded and say, oh, it should be this and that, I don't believe in that because some
Right.
people try to like keep things a little like, um, try to slow down the evolution of it, or try to like draw lines between what's blues rock, what's
Right.
uh, more soul. Like, I feel like we need to embrace the multitude of um, subgenres within the blues.
Hmm.
I really like people who are traditional, and I think it's important that there's young people who keep up the traditional country blues, Delta blues tradition, like Young Rel, for example,
Hmm.
or like uh, Jontavius Willis, I believe. Um, so I think that's great that there's people who play this really traditional style of blues, and that's something I feel that can't really be learned. Like, I dabbled with it, but I feel like that's not me if I try to
Okay.
sound like Robert Johnson. I
Right.
feel it's something that's also geographic.
Hmm.
Like, if you're not from that region, I'm not gonna try to fake an accent or something, a southern accent, like it's just something I feel like that's important that young people still experience that because that's where it comes from.
Right.
But it's also important to reach young people to allow the blues to move to something that maybe they can connect to with easier. If it's
Correct.
rock, or if it's more like hip hop, or if it's R&B, if it's something that they like to dance to, I think both is important, and maybe they'll get the job done.
Good answer. Good answer. Thank you so much, Stefan, for sitting down and chatting with me and letting me know and learn a little bit more about what you do. So when is the album is out right now? Or are you doing a
Yeah, the Life at Roses Lounge came out last year in September,
Mhm.
and we have a new single that's called Anxiety
Okay.
that's coming out June 1st.
Ah.
And it's actually a reggae style song.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
it's a little bit political.
Okay.
It's a little bit about our current climate,
Okay.
and yeah, just something different.
Well, that's what the artists do. We keep an eye on what's happening in the world. So you right on par with that. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. Where's Stella? I gotta say bye to Stella.
She went under the bed to sleep.
Stella was like, I had my moment of fame. I'm not doing this with you anymore. But I will talk to you later. It was a pleasure again chatting with you, and we're gonna do this again.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope to see you soon somewhere.
Oh, definitely, definitely. All right, take care, Stefan.
All right.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
bye bye.
Baby, tell me, can you